Thank you for the storming introduction. I have a presentation prepared today, so I'll just move over to the projector. And again, thank you for this opportunity to talk a little bit about how the mobile phone is beginning to transform education. Before the mobile phone, we had PCs. And we know that laptop computers have penetrated to many, many schools. In fact, in Tamil Nadu, we have the AIADMK government's laptop distribution scheme going on now. So, what would happen if we gave every child in every school a laptop to the quality of their learning? What do we think?
This, I'm not sure everyone would be able to use it well.
So perhaps some people would advance faster and others would be left behind. Yeah? So there's a project called OLPC, One Laptop Per Child. They rolled out in about 1,000 schools in Peru. They did a randomized controlled trial of 320 schools. Every child, every teacher got a laptop in Peru. And they had some very significant findings. One is it dramatically increased access to computers. Well, that's by definition, of course. We gave them one. We spent a lot of money. But the troubling thing is that there was no evidence that the program actually increased learning by the students, especially when it came to the core objectives of the program, which was math and language. There were some benefits. Some of the students did actually progress compared to their peers who did not have laptops. But it did not seem very systematic. The teachers did not use a laptop.
No.
Children did not use a
Lack
laptop.
of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge about what to do with them.
No focus. No content.
No content.
Content might be missing. A lack of a program around the laptops. It's just a gadget. All of these things were cited by the study. And in addition, teachers experience an ability to bring the laptops into regular classroom instruction. That we all had this equipment, but if the teacher is most comfortable writing on the chalkboard, then we have spent a lot of money on equipment that is not being used. Now, during the introduction, I was very kindly informed to you all that we have done this study in 34 schools in Tamil Nadu. I'm very pleased to say that this year we have rolled out across 110 schools in Tamil Nadu and Andhra and also in Delhi, starting with some very, very poor neighborhoods in parts of Delhi as well as rural Andhra Pradesh. So these are places like the Karnataka border, the far south Telangana. And we did a controlled study similar to what they did in Peru. What we found is that with a mobile phone and an application on that given to a teacher, so this is just a device in the hands of the teacher, nothing to the students, we saw a 10% increase in learning in science for students compared to their peers. We were very pleased to see that all children learned better. That you'd think after a year of school, they should know more at the end than they did at the beginning. But the group which experienced the mobile education project was 10% ahead of those who did not. And the feedback from teachers was very positive. And this was a real contrast to our experiments with laptops and PCs. And we have done a lot of work in India putting computers into schools. And when you're talking about relatively low-skilled teachers, one of the biggest factors is I'm not sure how to use it. I don't want to use it. It's very complicated. And in this case, we actually saw very positive feedback from the teacher. And this translated into really good results for the kids actually speaking in class. And this would be young children, 5th standard. Oh dear. Yeah. 5th standard students who had come from local medium, so Tamil medium or Telugu medium schools from 1st through 4th standard, and now they were expected to learn an English medium. And this is a photograph of a classroom. You can see it's not a particularly high-profile school. And much like I have this set up here, he has a cell phone connected to the projector. The quote, I'll just read it to you. Motivation levels have raised. Pupils showed active interest in learning the language with reference to listening and speaking skills. Students started uttering words and sentences in English. It is wonderful. That's a big difference. Why do you think that is?
It's more like a movie, you know, they can watch it and all of them together.
Happens even at computers.
But computers individually they have to pay.
Like educom.
Okay.
You have.
I think the teachers are more motivated, you know, okay, they have the equipment, they have something to show, and they want to see the results.
It's the content.
Content, motivation, the experience of the students, how seamless that is. Yeah, all of these things played a big part in that. The fact is that the technology that we had before is effective in instruction, but it needs to be used in a holistic way by the teacher. So just providing gadgets is not sufficient. And even providing very good content. You can go back 10 years in India when Wipro first started, Wipro Applying Thought in Schools. And with UNICEF, they provided CD-ROMs that were mailed out to schools across the country. Lovely content. Very nice stuff. But again, I have to know how to get in there, load it up. I have to be motivated to actually run it. Is this an appropriate time in my syllabus? Does it support my regular curriculum? Is it part of my program of instruction? So let's take a look at this relationship between computers and phones. So I just have some sentences here. I'll scroll up and you can see them. I hope you can read that relatively clearly in the back. So I'm going to change the word from computers here to mobiles. And I want you to think about how this sounds. Mobile phones are hard to use. To use a mobile phone, I go to a special room. Not many people in my family use a mobile phone often. My mobile phone needs special software. I get nervous that I'll break my mobile phone. How does that sound to you?
All wrong.
Yeah, and completely wrong. So the way that we treat these kinds of devices and the way that we treat computers is completely different. And there are a lot of reasons for that. One is that we have these devices, they're cheap, they're affordable, they're accessible. Another very important reason is that we use them ourselves all the time. We carry them with them. They are part of our regular routine, whereas a computer in a classroom is typically not part of a teacher's regular routine. I don't know if you've noticed this with your own computer, but with a phone I always have a connection to the internet, to voice. In fact, we don't think about it. We only think about it when our connection is cut. We say, oh, line cut. That's more remarkable. Whereas with a computer, it is a big fuss to get onto the internet. And we have our little 3G cards, and we have cables, and we have, oh, there's the Wi-Fi available, I need to type in my password, etc. And I first encountered this when I was teaching about reading and mathematics. No one will say to you, reading is hard. People are very embarrassed about illiteracy. They will not admit that they cannot read. But hundreds of people will say, oh, mathematics is very hard. I can't do math. So phones and computers are the same way. No one will tell you, I don't know how to use a mobile phone. And that is the first barrier to overcome. If you have a teacher who says, oh, I'm not capable of using this technology, you have lost the race before you have even started. So we have some built-in advantages that work especially well with the teacher and student population. But these are not specific to education. These are just inherent qualities of the mobile phone. So let's think for a second. How are we going to use this phone in education? What is the main thing we do with our phones? What are some of the main things you do, or actually what would you say is the main thing you do with your phone?
Speak.
Voice calls.
Text.
Voice calls.
Messages.
Text messages.
Emails.
Emails. Yeah, if I have my BlackBerry especially.
Gaming.
So actually, voice calls are over. SMS is the largest user of phone services on the planet. There are 4 billion active users. We now have more SMS traffic than anything else, including voice, although data is starting to catch up. And you're finding that networks in the United States are now reprogramming their capacity from voice to data because people are no longer making calls. So you're wonderful. Okay, SMS should be my channel. That seems like a great thing for me to use for education. And are the phones ready? Well, let's look at the phones. I'm talking about all phones in the world. These stats are from 2009. Since then, the picture has only improved. But all phones in the world, of which there are about, at this time, almost one for every person. They reckon that there'll be one cell phone for every human being on Earth by about mid-2014. Every phone can SMS. Of course, you can make calls on a phone, otherwise it's not a phone. But let's go further. How about a web browser? 95% of all phones, and I'm not talking about your iPhone. I'm talking about a 1,500 rupee Micromax or the very low-end Nokia phones where they're just what they call a candy bar. They've got a very good battery life. Mainly all I can do is punch the buttons. There's no touch screen, nothing like that. Web browsers are 95% of those phones. That means that the internet and the web is a viable channel for education. And I can do it in color. 2009 it was 93%. It's only gone up. But do I have a data connection? 91%. Or 2.5G, not 2G. Now, this phone I'm using here is set to a 2G SIM. It's a 3G capable phone. But we do our testing on 2G because that's where your rural and your poor population are going to be working. Now, this is interesting. Multimedia message service. Does anybody use that? Who's used that? MMS. 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. Anybody downloaded a ringtone? That's MMS. Anybody shared a picture? That's MMS. Anybody sent somebody a business card on your phone? That's MMS. What happens is a text message, a regular SMS gets sent, but it has an attachment. And in order to use that attachment, you have to have MMS. So now, oh look, that means that even on very low-cost phones, I can do multimedia messaging. That's very exciting. And then I get down to things like the camera. A lot of phones have them. Bluetooth, not so much. And then this last one, apps. And by apps, I'm really talking about Java, which is the ability to run a relatively complicated new program. I have the things that ship with the phone, the calendar, the alarm. Maybe I'll have a radio player in there. But a new program that I would use for education, I need Java or some similar programming language to run that. So a little over half. That's not so good. Because if only half of those phones have them, then my bottom of the pyramid population is going to be very few. So, while we're talking about percentages of phones, just as a rough guess, what percentage of phones worldwide, including the US, Western Europe, Japan, China, what percentage do you think would be smartphones?
20%.
40, 50?
20.
50, 20? Over 80% of all phones are feature phones or basic phones. Those phones sell like hotcakes. If we talk about 1 billion users in India, most of those people do not have smartphones. And we're lucky, we're happy in Chennai, where we can have smartphones in our hands here. But you go into tier 2, tier 3 scenarios, people's phones are very basic. So anything that is going to be a smartphone kind of experience, I should think very carefully about. So let's look at my channels. I have 5 options for education that are going to be quite good. The easiest one is the app. and then I create a piece of software, I put it up on Google Play or the Nokia Store or iTunes, and people download it on their smartphones. But that's not going to be very accessible. So as I move down through here, I'm accessing more and more people. Web. Well, hold on, I just said we have 93% of all phones have a web browser. So already, I'm at 93% penetration. If I add MMS on top of that, I get pretty much everybody. SMS, of course, is 100%, but not 100% of all users. Now, why would SMS, which can be used on every phone sold, not be accessible to a big chunk of our educational population?
English.
English? You can send a Tamil SMS. I've seen Tamil
Bad
people.
spelling.
Spelling? Yeah, I need to be literate. I need to be able to read and write to use SMS. And especially if I'm talking about education, one, we've got kids who are just learning, and two, we have their parents who may not be literate at all. And that's where this last channel becomes super important, which is voice. IVR is integrated voice response, or there's a couple different variations of the acronym. You can do it in different ways. And what we're talking about is things that we actually hate. You call and a computer answers and it says, please press 1 for customer support, press 2 for sales, press 3. So that technology has been around for about 15 years now, and it's gotten very, very good. And the amazing thing about it is that I can record messages in a local language, and I can have a very basic logic accessible to everyone to get a query that I have answered without having to have expensive humans on the other end of the line. So let's take a look at some examples of different educational apps that use each of these channels. So this is a program that I happen to be running here in Tamil Nadu and Andhra. It's called Bridget India. The teacher-directed intervention. This requires us to install an application on essentially a feature phone, a phone that's capable of running Java. We give them a cable like this, and as you can see, I've connected up here. More important than the cable, I think a gentleman in the back said, you need to have content, and the content needs to be meaningful for the curriculum. So we provide what we call activity guides. Let me see if I can get this picture. Yeah. So here in my classroom, I have some posters that are marked for the syllabus, that as you teach this lesson, here are 4 or 5 videos that are aligned directly to that. And then I have lesson activities where I say, when you use this video, here is something you can do with it in the class. And this has been very, very successful. So let's see what it looks like. Change. There we go. So this is a custom Java application that's running on the phone. It's open source. You can download it if you have a Nokia phone. We put together a catalog in English and science. And then these codes correspond to different codes on the poster. So if I'm in March, I'd be towards the end of the year. And then this essentially becomes a video player. So I have a download, store, and play application. And we have put some indication to the teachers of what we're expecting the kids to get out of this when they go. Now some people have looked at this and said, you know, I had this with a CD-ROM or a DVR video player. That's exactly the point. Once I have it on the phone, I can play it again and again and again. However,
it is impossible to give a fair description of the size and beauty of the crater. There is nothing with which one can compare it.
The difference is, I can broadcast new content because I have this internet terminal that's with me all the time. And I get an SMS from a teacher saying, I have this lesson coming up, can you suggest something? And I put it up on the server and they download it. Another key difference is that I have aggregated statistics so that as I play this, it's talking to the cell phone network and it's informing the computer, which is in a data center in Hyderabad, that I just played this video. And each month we track how many videos are played, which videos are played, did they play it through to the end, which videos do they choose to download, and as new videos come out, we issue an SMS which says, please check the catalog for new videos. And you can see here this has come up in blue. A new catalog has been added, and these two videos are on the server. And I click on that, and I can start that downloading now. And away it goes. The other advantage of this kind of approach is that it is not YouTube. It is not streaming. This is not 3G. This will download overnight. I'm on a 2G connection. This is almost 20 megabytes. It'll take ages. But ages is maybe 1 hour. So I can't do that in the classroom. I don't know if you've tried to play a YouTube video on a 3G card. It'll load, it'll get stuck, it'll load, it'll get stuck. So I have a very, very reliable device here. The difficulty with that is that I do need to install some software. I do need to install some software onto the phone. And we do need to do some training for teachers to get them to understand a few of the button clicks. But again, this is not a scary thing. I challenge a teacher, I say, do you think you can use a touchscreen phone? No teachers have said, no, I can't do that. If I say to them, do you think you can use this laptop? They're very happy to say, oh, sir, no, I don't do computers. And some of the quotes, Nokia has done a great job by introducing this new concept. And the teachers themselves are reporting that it's much easier to use than other technologies. Of course, as with any technology, you have your own challenges. This, to me, was one of the most amazing use cases. We hadn't planned for this. Power is a big problem in schools. Phone has a battery. So this teacher would set up their kids into workstations around the class, and she would work in small groups, and they would watch the video in one corner, they were working on revision problems in another corner, they were doing a different exercise in the third corner, etc. And she rotated through the whole class. And we know that if you put engaging content out there, kids respond. And the backbenchers who had previously not said anything begin to participate in class. And this has nothing to do with the phone. This is just about putting engaging content in the hands of the teachers at the moment that they need it. As opposed to saying, all right, next Tuesday, if there isn't a power cut, we're going to go down to the other side of the school and we're going to try and use the computer lab. Oh, but 10th standard has to write their essays today. Sorry, kids. Let's go back to the textbook. And as somebody who works in education, I see that scenario all the time. That's an app solution. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about a web-based solution. This is a live website. It also happens to be run by Nokia. It's called Madras. This is done for kids in South Africa. It is a study tool. Now this is not a classroom-based intervention. It is accessible to parents and students anytime they want, and they have their phone in their hand. Now I'm running this on my kind of smartphone. I've run this on a Nokia 100, which is a 1,000 rupee phone. It's got a screen this big. It looks great. Does that identify the constant difference in the general term? I'm not sure what the right answer is here. But the beauty is, on the web I have a data connection. And once again, this is a 2G connection. This is a very slow data connection. Okay, I didn't get it right. Now I can go to the next question and check it out. Or I get a hint, and then I can go and read theory, and they provide to me study materials. And this is all being done over the web. You can actually log on to this from a regular computer. But we're talking about a population of kids that don't have computers at home. and then I can choose the overall theory or look at worked examples. Any time I have a spare moment and my phone is there with me, I can go and do this. And the only thing that I have to pay is the cost of the data connection. Now, how much does a data connection cost now?
100 rupees.
99 rupees a month. Yeah. So I'm getting tuitions at 99 rupees a month. That is fantastic. And all of the results of this, once again, are aggregated on the server, and at the government level, at the district level, people know where kids are struggling and where kids aren't, as opposed to having 100 different tutors who may or may not be teaching kids the right thing. So that's really, really neat to be able to use the web. And a big company like Nokia can afford to do that. My company, EasyVidya, has also done that. We have a product called TechMate. And the great advantage of the web over the app model is that it's a zero software install. You take any phone, you just give the URL, and now how do I get a URL to a phone? I send you a text message. I click on that link, and then I can automatically sign up. Now, depending on the phone, it may or may not be beautifully formatted. But what we have done is put all of our ebook materials online. Yeah, it's loading. Now here, it's all going to depend on the quality of your connection and the size of the object. If I want to do streaming video like right now, it's going to take ages. I need to be patient. But a PDF book chapter is about 100 kilobytes. That'll load in 10 seconds. And instead of carrying my books home, I carry my phone around with me. And away I go. Let's see if I can just give you an example. So this is something that we just did for our subscribing schools. EasyVidya makes and sells packaged curriculum textbooks. And all of the schools that subscribe to that get a subscription to TechMate. It's there over the internet. I can use a regular computer, and I can use a cell phone browser. It works exactly the same way. And I can view the different topics. I can view my calendar, etc. So these are the different books that I have available to me. I'm going to keep marching on because and we want to finish around 7:45. So I started this discussion of channels with SMS. Now, there are a number of really, really good two-way SMS solutions out there that are deployed in India and around the world. Actually, Nokia Life is one of the big ones. It started in education, it moved to weather, crop prices, healthcare. It's a very simple system. I send a text message, and I get a message back with, in the case of education, a definition of a word that I text. So I have a particular short code, like 5392. I send a text message, 5392, hubris. And it sends a text message back with the meaning of that. So very easy, very simple system to learn English. Equally, they have general knowledge, text messages driven on keywords. There's a company in Hyderabad that has a dictionary for the web where I can search the internet using text message. I send them a text message, the keyword is harvested by their computer, they do a web query, pick the result, and they send me the web page back as text in SMS. So I don't even need to know how to use the web. But I can get access to the great resources that the web has, like Wikipedia or weather forecasting, just using text messages. This is really, really good because the size of the screen is no longer important. Because scrolling text, I can handle on any phone. And then I can make this MMS as well. So if I need to include a picture, I click on the link in the SMS message, and MMS will fill in that gap so that I can get a diagram sent to my phone. These are going to be very small things. I mean, they're the size of ringtones and caller tunes, that sort of thing. So they started out in education. The crop pricing application has been tremendous. I'm sure you all know the situation of the Indian farmer. Now I can send a text with the name of my crop. It picks up the locality from the cell phone towers that I'm connected to, and it replies back with the prices from 3 nearby wholesalers. And then I can choose whether this day I'm going to go to one market or another and get the best price for my crop. And that kind of information is really changing the economic lives of farmers. Now, we talk about scale, right? When we talk about mobile phones, we talk about billions of connections. So this service is one of the few services that has scaled around the world. They're live in India, in Nigeria, in Tanzania, in South Africa, and I think they've reached 1 million users, which is not something that we're seeing with a lot of the PC-based intervention. I'm sure you've seen Educom's Smart Class, that board that's out there. Very, very successful company. All across India, they have a computer lab model. If they're in 10,000 schools, I'll be surprised. Nokia Life is installed on every phone that ships from Nokia. And any phone that can take SMS can sign up for the service. And all I'm doing is paying my SMS charges, which again, like my data plan, is going to be 99 rupees a month. The last channel is the voice channel. So there's a wonderful group that's working in Jharkhand called Gramvani. These are for people who are literate only in their local language or not literate and who are not able to get radio. Now, a lot of phones don't have radio players, a lot of houses don't have radios, and even if they do, I need power for them. Okay, my batteries are running out. My phone battery is a priority to me. People keep their phones charged. The way that Gramvani works is that I call in and I leave a message. It just records it as a voicemail. And the staff are getting about 2,000 calls a day of people call in with messages about their village, about their family, about the state, something that they wanted to say. They curate this content. They listen to the 2,000 voicemails that come in, and it only takes 3 or 4 people to get through all of them. And then they'll post 60 or 70 messages, group by topic. So when I call in, the first choice is, do I want to record a message or listen to other people's messages? And then I go into the menu, press 1 for sports, press 2 for news, press 3 for weather, etc. And then I get the best citizen radio messages that other people have recorded for me that day. And it's all done through a simple keypad on a phone, and I listen. I don't need to know how to read or write. It's in my language. It's very, very topical. And it's getting to places where citizen radio does not cover. I mean, to get a radio station set up in India, I'm not sure if you've looked at the regulatory regime, it's very, very difficult. And our villages can feel very isolated. So this simple phone intervention has changed that. And it revolves around some server logic. Hard disk space is cheap. I put a SIM card in a computer. I record all these messages on disk. Then you have a couple people with computer headphones who listen to them. And then I'm done. They're reaching about 2.5 lakh people. And the only charge that they have to pay is the cost of their regular voice channel. So this is an article from the newspaper, and you can see that I have some ladies in this village who are listening to messages on the phone, actually sharing one of the messages that they particularly like back and forth. So any kind of community service announcement, health alert, and when we talk about education, these are very, very important things like please do not leave standing water. Dengue is out there. Please, you have to use a minimum soap solution when you wash your pots, etc. I mean, education is not just about, do we have our multiplication tables? These kinds of solutions are very, very powerful. So, I hope I can leave you with a few thoughts tonight. That when I think about the different technology choices that I have out there, my telephone is going to be more accessible. Anybody can get information out of the phone, whether it's through the voice, SMS, MMS, web, app. The number of phone connections in India boggles the mind. And very shortly, middle of next year, there'll be one phone for every human alive. Now, considering that you're 0 to Actually keeps going down every year. I'll say the 0 to 4-year-old segment probably don't have their own phones. And your 20 to 50 segment probably have a couple phones. And you can guiltily search your closet and find last year's model and donate it to somebody. But it's extremely widespread. And it can be very, very effective because I have gotten over several of the barriers of using technology. Is it there the moment I need it? Is it something that I feel confident in using? Is it something that I have a strong and persistent relationship with? And it's very adaptable in a way that computers are still not quite up to. If you've used Skype on a computer, why is it that my webcam is not working today? The microphone, sometimes it's there, the volume, sometimes it's not. If the volume is not working on your phone, you will go out and get a new one. If the volume is not working on your computer, you get frustrated and you shut it off. Very, very different behaviors. But something to think about is the killer app in education that people keep going for. And in this sense, I actually think that the idea of putting a laptop in the hands of every kid is a good idea, because when they get to the workplace, they will need to know how to use computers. But one-to-one, where every child has a terminal, is still far away in India. And even with these web browser capabilities, there's a certain amount of training and support and a program that needs to go around that in order to get our children to be using this stuff in a really useful educational way. I can put all the nice websites out there, but if people don't go to them, or if they don't persist with them, it's very hard to get educational value. And because in a given classroom I have a very wide range of experiences on the phones. Some people have a smartphone. Some people have a Sony. Some people have a Samsung. Some people have a Nokia. Some people have a Micromax, etc. Our educational institutions have been very reluctant to embrace this. There's a movement now called BYOD, or Bring Your Own Device, where we're letting people take their own equipment into the classroom and into the office. In India, that has not yet happened. And this one-to-one model is still some time ago. And you're going to have to change also some attitudes about teachers. We had a tremendous difficulty with the Bridget project, where the teachers were broadcasting video in class, because many principals did not want their teachers to have cell phones on in their classrooms. And we had to convince them that no, the teachers are going to sign a conduct agreement that they will not be using the phone for personal calls during school hours. And we've run into problems there because teachers are humans, just like everybody else, and the temptation to make a phone call when you have your phone is very high. But we have to learn to accept some of these risks if we are to gain the promise of new technology. I apologize for the technological challenges of our projector. Actually, in this case, it's been quite instructive. The Kaleido TVs work really, really well with this. The screen is quite small, but it works well. I just want to close. This little girl is in Vikarabad in rural Andhra Pradesh. That school has power about 4 hours a day. They have a very nice computer lab that was exclusively reserved for the 9th and 10th standards. She came up in a Telugu medium school, 1st through 4th. She reached this government school in Vikarabad. You know, it's a dirt playing field and pretty dilapidated structure. Could not speak English. We're now 2 years into the program. They come running about. They will sing songs. They will ask us in English about the stories that they've seen on these phones. The transformation has just been terrific. Thank you. I really appreciate your giving me an audience and a chance to talk a little bit about some of these developments. And it's these girls and the many girls and boys across India that I think are really what this is all about. I'd be happy to talk a bit about Easy Vidya later if you want to just buttonhole me. And I'd also like to open up the floor for questions you might have.